Vandata, Karinko a Efon, Naranguro na Ladu, Naranguro na Kondokoro, Mama Karin Adoki, Ana Sindru, Yilo na Bari. Assalamu alaikum, ismi Efon, Abui ismu Jacob, Humin nas Kondokoro, Umi ismu Margaret, Humin nas Sindru Urajaf, Ana bit Bari min Junub Sudan. Hi everyone, my name is Efon. My father is Jacob and he is a Bari man from Kondokoro, and my mom is Margaret and she is a Bari woman from Rajaf and Sinduru. I am a Bari woman from South Sudan. Firstly, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present and emerging, both here in Australia and back home in South Sudan. I pray that you always guide me and protect me and that your teachings and culture will forever live on. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders of this land in which I stand, the Jagera and Turrbal people, and pay respects and acknowledge the elders past, present, and emerging, as sovereignty was never ceded. Just a little background about myself and the bio that would have been read out at the WOW Australia Festival. I am 18-year-old Efon Victorio. I am an Egyptian-born South Sudanese woman who is purely Australian raised. My passions include writing poetry, reciting poetry, dancing, advocating for the voiceless, and educating people about South Sudanese culture. I started reciting poetry and won my first poetry medal at age 6. I then began writing my own poetry at age 14. Death is My Shadow being the first poem I ever wrote. I graduated from St. James College and I am currently studying nursing in university. I aspire to inspire others, one smile and laugh at a time. As you can see, I'm wearing traditional South Sudanese attire. This is specific to my tribe Bari, as I have said previously. We would call it a kurbaba. And to just walk you guys through my introduction, it was a welcoming and get to know me speech in 3 different languages: in Kutub Nabari, which is my native mother tongue, in Arabic, which is one of the national languages of South Sudan, and in English, which is my first language. The title of my piece is My Home, My Australia, and it illustrates and represents me as an individual, but also me within a collective group, which is the South Sudanese community. It consists of 2 poems I made, which is Death is My Shadow and We Are Drowning. Death is My Shadow just represents the journey of many South Sudanese families to Australia. It also illustrates the corruption of South Sudan through war due to tribalism and a corrupt government. We Are Drowning illustrates the Australian media's attitude and biased representation of Australian South Sudanese youth. Adut Run was the last thing I heard before death became my shadow. Not you and my family or even Australia can save me from the sorrow. I have no idea where I'd be. Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, Lord Jesus, please set me free. I'm a mad dog, black, infected with fleas. And oh yes, I tell you, South Sudanese politics did this to me. But if we collide and put our differences aside, we can be much more than the youngest nation on earth, the most bloodshed on its turf. With females escaping with children on their backs because the government lacks but won't accept the fact that we're suffering because they can't keep their own country intact. But we have no choice. We have to run for a future rejoice, where we can make our families proud and proclaim out loud that I am a South Sudanese. But this can never be because death has become my shadow. It swallowed me up and led me to a meadow, where clean water flows, food is never low, and was firstly and originally Aboriginal owned. But how can I be happy when my brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles are back home dying, and the government is consistently lying that they have everything under control? Yeah, our own South Sudan president can't even read off a scroll. You see, I was only a few months from born to Australia. That does not mean I should deny my race, heritage or colour, for I made it out alive, while others die and run to survive, because death has become their shadow. Burning, slaughtering, killing is evil. All these tragedies have befallen on my people, and the world just sits while eating their meals, forgetting that innocent lives and heads are getting chopped off with every meal. They never asked for death to be their shadow, to continuously follow them around until they're lying flat on the ground with not one pulse in their body. While our government sits around and doesn't feel sorry for destroying our motherland, vibrant and rich of future leaders that made its own people go mad and chased out the believers. People from Dinka, Equatoria and Nuer will suffer unless we, the Ross community, come together and chase the demon of tribalism hidden deep inside. Then we can put our differences aside and collide. But until then, death will forever be my shadow. So that poem just educates you guys on the horrific experiences of a little girl from South Sudan, Adut. And basically, it just teaches you that no one runs away from their homeland, from what they know is home, if it was safe enough for them to stay there. Every asylum seeker or migrant has left because they were unsafe in their own area. Their journey is more safe than them staying where they are. So it's very important to understand that and to also acknowledge that and help them through their experiences instead of turning around and being racist towards them or stopping them from just basic human rights, which is safety, which is access to clean and nutritious water and food, which is little things like that, which with that poem, I tried to educate you guys on and why so many South Sudanese people are displaced. Because right now in South Sudan, there are more than 4 million South Sudanese people displaced. This is around the world. This is within Uganda. This is within Kenya. This is within Egypt. And in all of these refugee camps. So it's very important that life is not easy in a refugee camp. Life is not easy away from your homeland. Australian South Sudanese, we are drowning because of the media reports, because of our skin, because of our melanin. As the anchors of my legs become heavier, the deeper I go in. South Sudanese and Australia, we are drowning. We are suffering the effects of being unapologetically black, and that's what the media lacks when they report we are gang violence in a program to attack. South Sudanese and Australia, we are drowning. We are drowning deeper, deeper like the ocean. The anchor's getting heavy with every parliament promotion. South Sudanese and Australia, we are drowning. We are told we are the problem. We are the dogs, we are the animals, we are the untamable beast, a beast that continues to repeat, elevate and compete with our heads held high, with our voices in the streets. As I drown to the bottom and the light in my eye becomes dim, as I become lifeless as the anchors hold me down, the anchors are the categories you put me in. I can't even be myself, be loud and free. I can't even chill with my Melbourne friends because we're deemed a menace to society. You have taken our tournaments, disheartened our souls by claiming we are gang violence, but my voice you will not take hold. As the anchors pull me down, closer to my ancestors I go, but if we drown today, our legacy will forever be in this land, riddles unsolved. We will not drown and be depressed because what you have said. We will lead, turn around, break the ankles and the ankles that is holding us down. You will only allow us to flex our muscles and see our strengths as we grab your descriptions, burn them down and elevate to greater lengths. So that poem is probably my most emotion-evoking poem because I myself have experienced racism. And I've been in Australia for 18 years of my life, so I came before I was 1 year old. And I'm not gonna lie, the racism was not as evident as it is today. After all the media stereotyping and the biased nature in the media representing South Sudanese youth, I feel like the racism has increased. I most definitely have experienced it on the streets much more than when I was younger. And it's just the feeling of not being wanted without doing something wrong. You go into a store ready to buy something and you're being followed around or you're being questioned or you're always having to print out a receipt just to prove your innocence. And I don't feel like it's right. As a human, you should feel safe. You should feel like you're welcomed. And labeling Australia as a welcoming country, it is very important that we welcome refugees and asylum seekers because it is already hard enough not being in your homeland, but experiencing racism it just makes everything more difficult. So that poem really hits home because I myself have experienced it. I'm like death is my shadow. I was a minor, I was a baby by the time I was born. We were already in Egypt, so I wasn't able to experience most of the hardships that my parents had to experience bringing us over here to Australia to give us that better life. But most definitely the racism and all those emotions that I speak of in We Are Drowning, I have experienced it myself. And my poems are just there to educate and advocate for the voiceless. I just want you guys to be educated and have knowledge on our culture, which will help you better understand how we grew up and how we act. One thing I want to say is we always stand with the victims. Overall, I hope my piece educated you about South Sudanese culture and migrant experiences, and I also hope it made you more mindful and open-minded towards refugees in certain situations. Thank you so much to Wow Oshaya for having me at the 2020 festival. Unlucky we weren't able to actually present in person, but I hope I shared awareness and advocated for the voiceless. As you know, I am a proud South Sudanese woman. I'm so proud to be representing my people today. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.